there's a conversation that we are having in every moment of every day between our heart and our brain. Our heart's sending signals to our brain then sends chemistry into our bodies based on those signals. And if we are chronically feeling angry, jealous, hopeless, frustrated, lost, that's the kind of signal it's sending to the brain, and the brain will respond with chemistry that is not necessarily life-affirming chemistry in our bodies. It's stress chemistry. In the presence of positive emotions, love, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, it's been very well documented in the open literature, scientific literature, that those kinds of heart-based experiences send the signals to our brain to give us life-affirming chemistry. DHEA levels increase 100% after only 3 minutes of feeling appreciation and gratitude, and those effects last for over 6 hours after we're finished. And all we did was have a feeling. So things like lifespan. We have met people in Tibet, nuns who right now are 120 years old, documented, and their skin color is good, they're happy, they're healthy, they're not hanging on by a slim thread. And last month, you may have seen this, an Israeli woman who was trying to cross through one of the checkpoints to go to work. Her papers had expired. She had to go get new papers. And they found that in her papers, she was born in 1888. So that makes her 120 years old right now. And it's the same thing. You'd never know to look at her that she's 120. I mean, she looks old, but she doesn't look decrepit. Her skin color's good. She's healthy. And they asked her what her secret was. And the first thing she said was she drinks a cup of olive oil every day. Which doesn't sound like the greatest thing to do.
Yummy.
And she said it was the love that she had for her children and her grandchildren is what keeps her alive. And
so what do you think our true nature is? I mean, are we, if we transcended all the negative crap, I mean, are we eternal or physically?
I think our bodies are probably designed. The scientists now, in the open literature, late last year, some of the tech journals were saying we should be living now at least to 140 years old. This is what they're saying, that the human body probably has the capability of living to 140 years old. But if you look at the ancient texts and you look at the chemistry and what we're seeing right now, there really isn't any reason for our bodies to shut down even after 140 if we choose to be here that long. For some people, they say, I wouldn't want to live that long. But I think that people say that it's because life has been hurtful to them, or they just feel that they're tired. But if we are vital, healthy, loving, happy beings contributing in a meaningful way to our world, I don't think that 120 or 140 seems like that long of a time, really. It's a very different way of thinking about things. But this is one of the capabilities that you're asking about, the healing of the false limits. The false limits that tell us that we are powerless victims of our physical reality. We now know human emotions have a direct influence on magnetic fields that control the barometric pressure for climates. In other words, we can change climate systems. Native American traditions and shamanic traditions have known this for at least 300 years, and they do this. They create what are called microclimates, mini storms. If they want rain or when it's raining a lot, they can have it dry out over their village. I mean, we've seen those things happen before. We think it's anecdotal, but there are very well documented cases where these things happen. Suffering, the limits of suffering. I believe we're not intended to suffer in life. It may happen. I don't think it has to. I think the suffering is the result of the significance that we give to the things that happen around us and the way we perceive the events of life. And when we find and really embrace who we are in our relationship to our world and to one another, I think by doing that, we have automatically redefined what it means to be suffering in this world. Everything changes. So the shattering the paradigm of false limits, of the limitations that we place upon ourselves because of the belief systems. And again, it's so interesting. We live our lives based in what we believe. I think most people would accept that that's true. And if we ask ourselves, Yeah, so if you ask yourself, okay, I live my life based on what I believe, where do my beliefs come from? And more often than not, we find that they're not even ours. They come from what science tells us, or history, or culture, or society, or our families have told us. And then the next question after that we've got to say is, well, what if they're wrong? What if we are living? What if we are these miraculous beings, delegates of this universally miraculous power, living our lives within the limits that were imposed upon us through beliefs of those in our past? What does that mean? Well, I think the conditions of our world today now are pushing us to the point where we've got to come to terms with what that means. If we're going to survive the conditions, we've got to find new ways to solve the problems between nations without going to war. We've got to find new ways to cooperate in the presence of abrupt climate change where we all need what each other have. We've got to find new ways to create energy, to sustain the kind of civilization that we've created, or to change that civilization. All those things require cooperation. They all require us thinking differently about ourselves. And I think those conditions are forcing us to redefine who we are, our relationship to the world. And it all comes down, I'll just say this quickly, it all comes down to two false assumptions that science, and I identify these in the book, false assumptions that science made 300 years ago that have been perpetuated throughout that time. The first false assumption is that 96% of our universe is filled with empty space, and we now know that is flat out not true. There is no empty space. There are many different kinds of energy out there. That's the first false assumption. And the second false assumption is that our inner experiences of thought, feeling, emotion, and belief have no effect upon the world around us. And our own science now has told us that that is a false assumption. So when we redefine who we are within a field of energy that connects everything, and us having a way to communicate with that field, everything changes. And when the general population really gets what we're sharing here tonight, we begin to look at ourselves very differently, and that's I think that's where we're going in a very, very short period of time.
Very exciting times indeed, and you know, there's just not enough time in the hour these days, I'll tell you. We've got to bring Joe back in here. Joe Denning is beaming out healing waves as we're talking about what's really possible in our true nature of our existence. Joe, how's it going?
Hey, I'm right here, and I do love what Gregg was just describing so well about the first three energy centers and the upper three energy centers and how they are blended in the heart center. And that's one way of referring to that heaven and earth are being blended together in this physical form, and therefore we are far more powerful than we ever imagined, and so are our thoughts and our beliefs. So if people would like to have an opportunity to change 4 or 5 more of those limiting beliefs you've been making a list about, why don't you bring those to mind very briefly now as the show is ending. And we will continue with the energy work after the show to be sure that that's all addressed for everyone. And as always, we love to hear about the changes that took place, and you can send emails to either Nicole or Joe Dunning events at gmail.com, and we love to hear about the miracles that you're noticing in your life.
Absolutely. And just a quick note, too, on, I think it's the 3rd, I've just gone momentarily blank, April 3rd, we're going to have a special on-air event with Joe Denning. It's going to be another on-air workshop. It's you snooze, you lose moment again. No archiving or recording there. You have to be there live to participate, and it's, of course, free. And you can go to newsforthesoul.com for the link there and all the information. And what else did we have to cover at the top of the hour? My gosh. Gregg Braden, do you have any events coming up?
We close at the top of the hour, right?
We do.
The program closes. Well, before we wind down, I want to thank you for being such a gracious host. I want to thank you for pioneering the kind of radio that we're doing right now in this program and all the years that you have done and served your community the way that you have. And Joe, I want to thank you for the work. You and I don't talk. I know you're out there, and I guess we're at least in the same geographic area, if not in the same time zone, and it's good to know you're a neighbor over there. So thank you for being with us tonight and all the work that you do.
Thanks, and we're neighbors in beliefs as well.
Yeah, and I was on